All right, our guest this week, Lakers head coach Frank Vogel. And Frank, we should start this by saying congratulations, Coach of the Month, apostrophe or with the parentheses S. It goes back to October. We don't want to job you about October credit, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Coach of the month and a half, right?
Yeah.
I think maybe 2 separate awards. You get 2 Coach of the Month awards.
It should be a little bit bigger. If they were to send an actual plaque, right? Shouldn't you get like an extra couple centimeters on that?
Yeah, maybe it should be a little bit bigger, but you know, it really doesn't matter. I'm happy for our team, for our organization. All these awards, Player of the Week, Player of the Month, Coach of the Month, Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, like all those awards, All-Star berths. Okay, they're indicative of team success, and we share them. And my coaching staff deserves a lot of credit. I, more than probably most head coaches, collaborate and use a group decision-making process to lead this team. And, the players got to take what we're telling them to do and go out and apply it on the floor. So, really a group reward, a team reward, and I'm happy for everyone.
Aaron and I were talking earlier and kind of guaranteeing each other that you would refuse to take any credit you would talk about the players.
Yeah, this is true.
I figured you would leave with like LeBron and AD. Well, when you're coaching LeBron and AD, and then my assistant coaches. But could you take us behind the scenes a little bit of your coaching staff, how it's working, the dynamic? You sometimes refer to the analytics that you get. We all know who Jason Kidd and Lionel Hollins are and Phil Handy. But what does that whole team effort do? How has that helped to the record?
Well, yeah, I mean, we joke as a staff about giving our guys the answers to the test every night, and each game we prepare a game plan, and we predict what the other team is going to, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and what they're going to try to do matchup-wise and scheme-wise, and all those types of things. And we usually predict it pretty well, and that's indicative of the assistant coaches that have that scout, really doing their homework. Grinding the film and studying the game and studying our opponents. And, when you have that level of preparation surrounded by the talent that we have on the roster, you see the record that we were able to start with. So hopefully we can keep it going.
We've talked a lot on the podcast about the success in the third quarters, in the second half specifically, and how the kind of collective IQ of both the coaching staff and the players has led to some success. You see what the other team is trying to do if you don't get the answers to the test right beforehand. Talk about the adjustment going into the third quarter. And is it just that the collective IQ of you guys and the talent?
Well, I like to credit the former video coordinator, now assistant coach Quentin Crawford, for doing a halftime tape. He does a halftime tape, and if we come out and have a strong third quarter, I give him all the credit. He's responsible for it. Joking aside, he's this team has a great ability to sort of figure out a game, and it reminds me of my teams in Indiana, where it takes a little time to feel out the opponent, to see what the coaches were talking about pregame, to feel it. We know they're going to back cut us all night. Okay, so we still get beat on 1 or 2 back cuts, but we get it under control throughout the game, and whatever the other team is doing to us that's slowing us down or whatever is working for us on our end, we have the ability to, like I said, figure out a game, and that's why we've had a lot of strong second halves.
There were a couple of moments in the first week or two of the season, Frank, that stood out, and we talked about in the pre and post, but just to summarize it here, so you're playing Utah, you're up, I don't know if it was 3 or 5 at the half, and you come out in the second half, and Anthony Davis starts at center. And now we haven't seen a lot of that lineup since, even though you could argue it could be the best on paper. But I just wondered, when you have a lead and you see something, how do you go about actually putting it in? And how is that indicative of some of the other changes that you made as well?
Well, a lot of it is just your trusting your gut and using your instincts about what you think will help our team succeed. Whether it's a set of plays that we want to run, a defensive scheme adjustment. Maybe we're going to double team a certain player in the second half that we didn't do in the first half, or sometimes, like you said, in the Utah game, it's about changing your lineup. And we didn't do that a lot, but that game it made sense to do so. And it's just one of those things that game by game, we collaborate with our coaching staff, with our players. We feel everything out and try to make the best decisions that we can to put our players in position to succeed.
You've been around the league in a bunch of different stops. including once here as a scout, like 15 years ago, 14 years ago.
Sort of.
But has...
So like advanced scouts, right? You're
yeah,
not
kind
really
of, right,
around.
kind of.
Yeah, because you did a little bit of scouting, but like you're not in the building much, right?
I was not in LA for a single day.
Okay.
I was at Eastern Conference Regional Scout, and it was all done remotely.
Okay, so then this question carries more weight then.
Okay.
Has anything surprised you, or what has surprised you? Not even necessarily on the court, but has anything surprised you about the organization, like what it's like to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers?
I think it starts with the fan base. I've been at a few different spots, and there's passionate fans everywhere, but not quite like this. Our fan base loves their Lakers. And everywhere you go around town, you're recognized and you're praised, and it matters to people around here. And that's exciting to be a part of. Internally with the organization, I've been overwhelmed with how tied together we are, how together we are as an organization, starting with Jeannie Buss down to Rob Pelinka and the coaching staff and the trainers and everybody. And, it's something that I always, it's sort of as the head coach, try to have the mindset that I want our group achieving that. And, we've sort of hit the ground running with that. Since I got here, we've had a lot of turnover. There's a lot of new faces with our organization, with coaches, players, medical team, everything. And, everybody has sort of a team first mindset. And, like I said, I think that starts with Jeannie and the team that Rob Pelinka has put together here.
Frank, after the game after the New Orleans game, so Washington, Anthony Davis, I thought, had an interesting comment where basically he summarized your coming to the team and saying, hey, guys, we don't have to actually lose a game to learn from the way that we can't play the way that we've been playing.
Right.
And, now, of course, you end up then losing the next game after you win that game. But how do you just summarize that month? It's 14-1. You're down a lot, but yet you find a way to win, and some of the habits that you saw forming that you wanted to try to crack into, and how does that now going into the trip you're about to go on come into play?
Well, that thought or that message originated with my head video coordinator, Drew Anthrop, who sets me up with a pregame board. Each game that I'm going to say to my team, I sort of fill out my offensive keys, defensive keys, and he'll always put a couple of tidbits in there. Like if he was starting it for me, this is where he would start, and that was one of the messages he'd been putting on my thing on my board for some time now. He says, "Hey, good teams don't need a loss to keep their edge," and it felt appropriate coming back off of that trip, where we went 4-0 on the road, and we had a game against a team in the Wizards who are a good team but have a sub 500 record, and I felt like it was a good time to put that message forth. Just make sure that we're continuing to learn and to grow and to strengthen habits while we're winning, rather than getting complacent. And for that game, we were able to do that.
We've been talking earlier on the podcast about kind of the narrative around there that the schedule hasn't been that difficult, and our response is basically you can only play the games that are on the schedule, and it's the NBA. Everybody can beat you. So have you talked to the guys at all about kind of not getting complacent about the schedule and the schedule, at least on paper, getting tougher coming up here?
We have, and we try to do the best job we can to create a mindset of what's to come. We first and foremost want to have a single-minded focus of the staying in the moment, and the next game is the only one that matters. But to start the month, we did sort of point out that we played a lot of teams with sub 500 records that played above themselves and outperformed their statistical numbers and stuff, and gave us their best shot. And it's an impressive thing to continue to win all those games. So I was happy with how we performed, but we did sort of set the table about what December looks like. It's 12 of 15 on the road. Starting at a certain stretch, I forget, but there was a stretch where we go 12 of 15 on the road, and most of those teams are either plus 500 right now or were in the playoffs last year. And, so we know the level of competition is going to rise right now. And, but for us, we feel like if we play to our strengths and play at our best, we can win all those games. And, we're going to have the mindset it's not going to be easy, but, each time we step on the floor, we're going to compete to win and believe in what we can do.
Coach, I want to ask you about what it's like to coach superstars a little bit. And I was just thinking when you were with Indiana and facing LeBron in these playoff series and how little sleep you must have been getting. And just like what game plan is there, really to this sucks. So what do you really get now with him, LeBron specifically, and AD too, in the locker room? And what are you seeing? Has there been anything, to Aaron's question earlier, that's surprising about that? Is it expected? What's behind the curtains with that?
Well, I think you never really know a player until you've coached them, and that's sort of played out a little bit with those two guys. The biggest thing for me, I think, is and this is not something that isn't part of their reputation, but they're both great leaders and they both have great IQs and minds, and they're almost like an extension of my coaching staff from the standpoint of the decisions that we're making. I run decisions by them just like I would with my assistant coaches, and both of them have been pivotal in sort of steering the ship on the right path. So that's probably the thing that sticks out.
Is there anything that you philosophically have changed, going back to the days in Indiana, specifically defensively, and then also in Orlando, or anything that you haven't philosophically changed, but just this roster allows you to do a little differently that you couldn't do back in the day?
Well, this roster does allow for a lot more flexibility. Our defensive scheme in Indiana, where we were number one in the league 2 years in a row, had to be broken. We had to break the mold and recreate it. And, that's what I did personally from my time in Indiana to Orlando. We started making tweaks to it. And then the final year, where we were last 2 or 3 months, we were really out of the playoff race and we were playing the young guys, and it was really a developmental type of job at that point. I turned that part of our season into a laboratory and say, let's really lock in, and rather than just play these games out, let's figure out some things defensively that fit the modern NBA, because the offenses have become so sophisticated, and with the 3-point shooting growth and explosion, the way the game is played now, it's just very different than it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. So to try to play the defense that we were playing in Indiana, where we didn't switch anything ever and dictated matchups and whatnot, I felt like it had to be broken, but not entirely. Like most of the league has gone to switch everything and have sort of totally let go of the rope in terms of trying to dictate matchups. I thought there was a way to split the difference, and that's the scheme we put in place with our guys here, and so far we're off to a good start.
Frank, sometimes people watching games, you can think of ATOs, the after timeout plays that a coach draws up, and all right, this guy got an open shot. That must be good. I was thinking, watching the game the other day, can Anthony Davis almost be deployed defensively in an ATO situation because of just his unique length? And I'm trying to remember, there have been a couple plays, but of course he switches over to Harrison Barnes. There are times you've had him on the guards coming out of timeouts. Like what does he do for you there that you can get nerdy about in defensive film room and think about how to deploy him?
Yeah, no, he's the ultimate defensive weapon, and you can deploy him in a lot of unconventional ways. We've had him on guys like Kawhi Leonard and Luka Doncic as the primary matchup at certain times throughout the year, and that allows us to do some creative switching. But he has that ability. He can play the 5-man. He can just pick up the point guard or switch on the point guards, protect the rim, and play on the perimeter switches. He has that type of versatility.
Good time for about 2 more for you, Coach, and then we'll get you out of here. So
right.
Get on the plane.
So let's talk a little bit about Rajon Rondo and his impact, especially offensively. To my eye, I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but to my eye, I think the thing that he's doing best so far and what he's bringing to the team is pace offensively. I think he's playing at the fastest pace of anybody. So what does he do offensively?
Yeah, he definitely does look to push the pace, but he keeps us organized. That's what great point guards do. They quarterback the action. They make sure they're getting us into stuff where everybody's touching it, and he does a great job with that. He's got one of the best IQs maybe ever to play the game, and he's one of the best passers ever to play the game. So he's given us a great lift there. He's been great for our confidence factor, and just giving us, I think I used the word swag. His impact is measured in swag more than statistics, and we know that the games are going to go our way when he's in there. So he gives me a lot of confidence in what we're doing on the basketball court, And then he's shooting the ball a lot better, than he has in the past. He's shot 36% from the 3-point line the last 4 years. So, I came in and told him that's a respectable number, and you got the green light to pull the trigger when the defense sags off him like they've done much throughout his career. And, he's off to a good start in that regard too.
Frank, I'm going to keep this somewhat general so you can attack it how you want, but you spend a lot of time just with the team, like the people in the team pictures and the players, your coaches. You can look behind us, whether that's in the back, eating, on the road. Are there any moments that have stood out to you that you've seen how the guys have sort of bonded together? Have there been a couple of leaders that maybe people don't think about from a sort of a social perspective? How does all that weighed up, and has that impacted winning at all?
Everything that impacts a positive culture helps winning and impacts winning. And, I think with that question, I would go back to our coaches retreat, where we had a bunch of intelligent coaches meeting and gathering really as a group for the first time. And we had a great week of meetings and fun. We had some fun with it. We had a couple of fun dinners. We went and played at Riviera. We all had a group golf outing. And, everybody worked. We put together a plan, but we made sure that we enjoyed each other as well, and we made it fun. And, I think the 4 young guys I brought into my staff, one guy was here, John Pastoric, our assistant video coordinator, had worked with our behind the bench assistant coach, Quentin Crawford. So there was a connection with those 2 guys. And then my head video coordinator and my advanced scout had worked together at St. John's in the past. And, those 4 young guys have been sort of, I don't know what the right word is. They brought the juice, they've been the energy of our coaching staff, and they've kept it loose. They've kept it fun. They keep everybody laughing. They work around the clock, and they always have a great amount of energy. So, those guys, I think, have given us a great lift.
Who brings the juice for the players?
For the players?
Yeah.
There's a lot of characters down there in that locker room that are bringing it. A lot of candidates for that. Probably starting with LeBron, AD, but Rondo keeps things very interesting on a day-to-day basis. Our 2 centers, keep things light. Those guys have established a great rapport. Kuz, Duds. I mean, the list is long.
Yeah,
it's short a list. Who doesn't? Right. Let's go with that.
Right.
All right, Aaron, you got it.
No,
let's hijack this last.
No, that's good.
Right.
Let's let Coach get on the plane.
Well, I did have one tiny little last one though. Just head coaches don't have a lot of time. Okay,
right.
So I don't. We're not going to sit here and ask you, hey, have you gotten to a lot of good restaurants here in LA? Like, I'm guessing it's been mostly work time, but have you had any time to decompress, to enjoy Los Angeles? To the fact that it's 65 out and sort of
special place, those
things. But have you had any of that within this season?
Some, but not enough.
Okay.
In fact, our coaching staff, we all joke around that we can't wait for the season to end so we can finally enjoy Los Angeles
in June.
Right.
Season end in June.
Yes,
yeah.
in June or I guess in June.
Yeah.
But that's the time where I think we'll all be able to exhale and enjoy Los Angeles, because since we've gotten here, it's been about find schools for the kids, find a home, get to hire a coaching staff, hire a medical team, put everything together with the plan. It's been all about the work, and my wife and I have gotten out a few different times, but we're certainly looking forward to the offseason.
Still business time. All right, that's the Lakers head coach, Frank Vogel. Coach of the month for October. We went on a short side October, as you said before, and November.
Right.
All right. Thanks a lot, Frank. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys.